What specific examples from sources in antiquity would you use to substantiate the case that ancient cultures meticulously cultivated the art of memorization?
I'll add to that if I may. We actually have school handbooks from antiquity, and it really helps us understand pedagogy, how students were taught and how they learned. It also helps us understand historiography, which is directly relevant to the whole question of the reliability of the Gospels, to understand exactly what the authors were trying to write. But in these handbooks, it starts off by saying there are these famous sayings, stories, crai, these little anecdotes the student memorizes. That's how education begins. So the student memorizes a whole bunch of things, and then the student learns how to use them effectively. Now, in the Jewish world, we actually have statements in early Jewish literature. One of my favorites is Rabbi so-and-so has died, and the town laments because they lost their library. And what they mean by that, when he died, he had memorized the entire Talmud. We're talking about, a few thousand pages of material. You could go to him and say, Rabbi so-and-so, would you repeat for me again the section in Shabbat that says, and then he'd just recite it. So these are memories. And we have the same thing in the Greco-Roman world. And one of my famous or favorite little stories, it's Craig, and I'm getting this from Craig Keener, so there's yet another Craig, by the way, who's a classicist New Testament student. And this guy it's a story about a play. And the actors recite their lines back and forth. It's a Greek play. They recite, I don't know how many actors are involved, half a dozen, and they recite maybe 1,200 lines. And the audience is listening to this. It takes about 2 hours. They're enjoying the play. And then suddenly at the end, somebody stood up and said, "That's my play. I've been plagiarized." And everybody's astonished. He said, "Well, prove it." And you know what his proof was? He then recited the play. And oh, by the way, he then admitted he's only joking. He was simply showing off his memory. He memorized it, sitting in the audience. So that's an example from the Greek world. We have many examples from the Jewish world, and we actually have the school handbooks. So when Craig Blomberg says they had memory back in those days, he's not kidding. The only memory we have today is in our computers and smartphones.
So just to follow up, so this memorization or memory extends not only to texts, but also events?
Yeah, and in Greek and Roman rhetoric, you have accounts and examples of people memorizing ahead of time, hour, 2 hours, carefully, artistically put together, rehearsed, minutely structured, and then they deliver it without notes.